Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chair. In this episode of the Record Recap, we will be looking at the album 52nd Street by Billy Joel. Now, as always, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Our goal is 75 subscribers by the end of the summer, so please help us make that happen and achieve that goal by doing that. Anyways, as always with the Record Recap, we score the album in 3 categories: the context behind the creation of the album, the songs on the album itself, and finally the album cover. Starting off with context, we find a celebrity now by the name of Billy Joel with the hit-smashing success of the Stranger album. Joel was riding high on momentum as we reached the second half of the 1970s. Now, with this new popularity came more ability to expand his musical ventures. So Joel set out to achieve one thing he didn't achieve with The Stranger, though he did win a few Grammys and many hit singles. He did not win Album of the Year, and that goal still eluded Joel, and now he was going to achieve that, or at least try to, with his follow-up album. So with full backing by Columbia Records now and the legendary producer Phil Ramone that's joined him from the last record, he gets together and starts to make his next album. Similar to the last couple albums, Joel has always wanted to evoke a New York style with his personnel and team, so he went to his normal backing band, but actually this time Joel really wanted to go a little bit more into the jazzier roots for this next album, and so he hired a lot of session musicians from New York, jazz musicians, to help out with this record. Funny enough, in the last episode, when looking at The Stranger, Billy Joel turned down working with George Martin because he didn't want to use session musicians in the album, and now here he is in this album using session musicians, so just kind of funny there. Alas, Joel and his many NYC buddies made the album 52nd Street, named after the famous street where many jazz bands played at the time and back in the day. Joel wanted to pay homage to those jazz artists by having that kind of weave throughout the album. Did he succeed? I would kind of go with a 50-50 meh answer. There are a couple tracks that have jazz in it, but it's not really weaved throughout the album, and it doesn't really give a cohesive story of what he's going for. But there is a little bit more jazz in some of the songs, but saxophone has been prominent in many of his albums before this point. Though the idea is to focus on jazz, the album is very much grounded in pop music, so the album's objective kind of gets a little clouded. 52nd Street was released on October 11th, 1978, and finally peaked at the top of the Billboard 200 charts, the first Billy Joel album to do so, and he did achieve his goal of winning Album of the Year for 52nd Street at that following year's Grammys. Still a wonderful hit with 3 singles on here: Big Shot, Honesty, and My Life. There really isn't too much else to talk about this album. It's just, Joel riding the success of his prior album into creating another great album with many hits that he still uses on his tours today. I will say that the goal to make it more jazzier isn't really fulfilled for me, and it's not really fleshed out in this idea of what this album is, so that I don't really care for. In this category, actually, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because there isn't too much story, there's not a lot of change or drama happening, and the goal of this album does seem very ambiguous. I don't think he knew what he was doing. I think he just more wanted to put out some great music that he still had working on, and just happened to incorporate a little bit of jazz throughout the tracks. Well, speaking of the tracks, how well are they? Well, I can easily say the first side is absolutely perfect. You have 4 songs on side 1, and they are all absolutely amazing. You have Big Shot, you have Honesty, you have My Life, and then on the closer, after those 3 singles, on the first side is Zanzibar. Big Shot was based off of a dinner Billy Joel had with Bianca Jagger, the wife to the Rolling Stone Mick Jagger. Zanzibar is once again one of those moody, dark love songs about an alcoholic in a bar trying to hit up on the waitress that Joel just does so well, as we've come to know. I'd have to say that Zanzibar is probably one of my, if not my favorite Billy Joel song of all time. I absolutely love it, and I think the jazz is actually incorporated on that track and kind of weaved throughout, and I think just makes the song even that much better. But with all these great hits on side 1, Side 2 does kind of suffer because of that. Stiletto kicks off the start of the album with a little bit of some groove and fun, but nothing too distinctful when compared to what we just listened to. Rosalinda's Eyes is dedicated to his mother, which kind of makes it weird because it is a love song, while Half a Mile Away is just a classic Billy Joel pop song that kind of picks up the pace and momentum. And then you have Until the Night, which is another complicated love story that Joel has done so well in every album he's made. And then the album ends with 52nd Street, another jazzier song to close the album. To be honest, I would say I only actually like 5 out of the 9 songs on this album. Once again, the first half or first 4 songs on the side 1 are absolutely perfect, and the only song I like on side 2 is Half a Mile Away. I think it's a good classic pop number that is just catchy and I enjoy it, but Stiletto and Rosalinda's Eyes don't do anything for me personally, nothing I look out forward to, and Until the Night is just kind of a lesser known love song that I just think there's so many other better ones that Billy Joel does. And 52nd Street is kind of a pseudo jazz song and not really a fully fledged, fully committed jazz song for me, so nothing I like there. Truly, I believe if the songs were kind of spaced out a little bit better, I think the album might have flowed a lot better, but just to have so many heavy hitters on side 1, side 2 truly suffers, and I think a reorganizing of this album may have made the album a little bit better for me in that area. Overall, the song category gets a 2.77 out of 5. Finally, we have the album cover, and there really isn't much to say. Billy Joel took the 52nd Street album cover picture on 52nd Street in New York. I kind of see it as a half-assed approach. He's going for this jazz influence, and I just don't really see it all there. Also, the album of him kind of on the street corner with that trashier, more grittier vibe doesn't really correlate to the songs that you hear in the album, as they're all really polished off pop tracks. So I just don't really think the correlation is there at all. I will say this album cover is better than Street Life Serenade, only by a little bit, but really I'm not a big fan of this album cover, so I'm actually going to give this score of a 2 out of 5 in the category. That gives 52nd Street a final score of 7.77 out of 15. A very fun score, but very unexpected for me. I actually thought that this album would be a lot higher scored, but now looking back at it, I can see there's a lot of holes why. There really isn't much going on or direction for this album. I think that the aim for jazz isn't really hit. And the first side, though golden to me, it doesn't really translate to the rest of the album, and it just has some of his best hits that you know him for, but it doesn't really correlate to the whole album like we've seen in the last couple albums we've looked at. This more feels like Billy Joel just ripping out great pop tracks because he can, not because there's a real aim for it. But he was just on top of the world in music, so why not just keep ripping out amazing hits. Still an album I recommend, but a lower score than I originally anticipated. This score puts this album right in kind of the middle of the Billy Joel albums we've looked at so far, and then it also sets itself alongside with a 7.7 score between other great albums like Let It Be and Life Beyond LA. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Record Recap. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said at the beginning, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Help us hit that 75 subscriber goal by the end of summer. But in the following episode, we are going to look at his next album, Billy Joel's next album, Glass Houses. Now, how will this fare up against the prior albums we looked at? Will it be as good as The Stranger? Will it be worse than 52nd Street? I guess we'll just have to find out then. But until then, have a great one, and we will see you next time.